Raila Jr. yesterday caused a huge storm on Twitter. He was actually trending for the better part of the day. Raila Jr. posted a tweet which most people interpreted to be an attack on Hassan Joho and Junet Mohamed. Hassan Joho and Junet Mohamed are actually some of the loyal supporters of Raila Odinga. That tweet as of today has received 7,600 likes. It has been retweeted 1,778. And it has already received 1,202 comments. So that's huge. And if you were to measure the reach of that particular tweet, I am sure it's almost clocking 1 million views. So it was huge. And Kenyans really discussed about it. This is what Junior posted yesterday. We as ODM need to find our way back to basics. We are not just about private jets and slay queens whilst abusing rival politicians. We have a development agenda clearly outlined in our manifesto. Let's focus on service delivery, democratic space, and protecting private citizens' rights. The mere fact that Junior mentioned private jet and slay queens, that's why most people interpreted the tweet to be an attack on Hassan Joho and Junet Mohamed. Because remember, Hassan Joho and Junet Mohamed actually hired a private jet to Dubai to bring Raila Odinga back to the country. And most Kenyans were wondering, really, why would Junior do this to people who just use the jet to go outside there and bring the father? And again, and on the issue of slay queens, you remember that particular handbag. Of course, up to now, we have not yet known the true owner of that handbag. And that was not the first time. A day earlier, Junior also made another tweet. He's saying, actually, Junet, as minority whip in the House and senior parliamentarian, I believe your position should be that even though you don't necessarily agree with what Oscar Sudi said, you'll defend his rights to say it. Freedom of speech is the cornerstone of our democracy. That tweet also caused a storm in this country. It received almost 4,500 likes. It was retweeted almost 1,000 times, and it received also 433 comments. On that, Junet Mohamed actually responded and told Junior he will not. You all remember that Oscar Sudi was arrested, and Junior was asking Junet Mohamed to fight for the rights of Oscar Sudi. And people were like, why would this guy do this? While we all know that people like Oscar Sudi have been part and parcel of the cheering squad in this country. And when Junior made the second tweet, which was now yesterday, which caused the biggest storm, I asked myself why Junior was actually doing this. And I realized that Junior probably did not realize two things. Number one, he did not realize that he was carrying the name Raila. Being a son of Raila Odinga limits his freedom of speech. Because anytime he speaks, people would always interpret it to mean Raila Odinga speaking, or even the family. So he didn't realize that. Number two, the second thing, he didn't realize that he was dealing with ODM, one of the major political parties in this country. And the comments to Junior's post were vicious, fast, and furious. And to his credit, the comments were either positive or negative, almost the same. And I remember that tweet even became a subject during an interview between John Mbadi and the Kikuyu member of parliament, Kimani Ichung'wah. And this is how Mbadi responded about that tweet.
Yeah, Waiga, Kimani Ichung'wah took almost 30 minutes
no.
one point. But I just want to say the following. Number one, on the issue of Raila Jr., if at all he tweeted, I don't read tweets. By the way, I'm not in social media at all. But if he tweeted, I wouldn't comment about that because Raila Jr. does not speak for ODM, is a member of ODM, and he holds no position in ODM. He is merely the son of our party leader. And by the way, he has held contrary opinions on many other issues, and that is his democratic right. So I don't know why that would be used to spell out position of ODM. Position of ODM would be spelled out by official leaders of ODM, led by Raila Odinga.
And Kenyans are only asking one question. What was the objective which Raila Jr. wanted to achieve through that tweet? Because you all know that in politics, nothing happens out of mere coincidence. Everything is normally designed to achieve specific political objectives. What were the objectives which Junior wanted to achieve? Remember, Junior is an adult. Junior has been actively involved in the political space in this country. I am sure even if we didn't have Raila Odinga as part of the name of Junior, probably he would have been involved in politics. In the last election, he was actively involved in Raila Odinga's campaign. And Junior has been trying to create a niche or a name for himself. So the question is, what were the objective of that particular tweet? In my view, that tweet was intended, in my view, that tweet can only mean three things. Number one, I think Raila Jr. is trying to create his own political space away from Raila Amolo Odinga. Growing up under the shadow of Raila Amolo Odinga is a huge burden. That's why when he made that tweet, it attracted the kind of attention it attracted. So which means as things stand today, Junior cannot just comment without thinking about the outcome, how people are going to interpret, even if it meant his own thoughts. Remember, it was not the first time Junior was talking like this. Junior has been on record on disagreeing with the father severally. During the VAT, the fuel levy, which was added 88%, I think Junior, I remember so well, disagreed with the father and he sided with Kenyans. And most Kenyans actually supported Junior's stand because he believed that it was unfair to burden Kenyans with the tax again. But on this, I strongly believe that Junior, through all these actions, it's not the first time he's been doing it. He's just trying to create a space for himself. But just like I said earlier, probably he didn't realize that he's carrying the name Raila Amolo Odinga. He didn't realize that. And I want to go back to history. When James Orengo first contested for the parliamentary seat in Ugenya, that must have been in the late 70s or early 80s. The guy who was his campaign manager was Raila Amolo Odinga. And during that time, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was fronting for the candidature of Matthew Sogutu. Matthew Sogutu was had been a cabinet minister, highly respected in the society, but James Orengo was just a mere son of nobody who had just finished university. So Jaramogi was fronting for this guy. Raila Odinga decided to break away from the father, and they teamed up. And someone was telling me this story, that when Jaramogi organized a major rally in the constituency, Orengo and the group, including Raila Odinga, mobilized. So Jaramogi was forced not to endorse Matthew Sogutu. And that's how this team ended up winning that seat. And that's how James Orengo became a member of parliament. So that's the first time. That's how Raila Odinga started creating his own space around Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. And probably that's the path Junior is taking. You remember that fuel levy bill. He created his own path and Kenyans really stood with him. Then after that, Raila Odinga came and wanted to contest for a parliamentary seat in Langata in 1992. The father didn't want him to contest. Again, he forcefully contested. And he created a name for himself. When the father died, he wanted to leave the Ford Kenya in the hands of James Orengo, Omalo and Wamalwa, that group. Raila Odinga then had a different idea. As the son to Jaramogi, most people had expected him to go by what the father wanted. That did not happen. Raila Odinga just decided to follow his own political path. So he created a name for himself. So today you can talk of Raila and you can talk of Jaramogi as two different entities. So I strongly believe that Junior, being a young man, is also just trying to create a space for himself. And on that, I strongly agree with him. He must create a space for himself. His voice must be heard, whether he's going to use the name of the father or not. The only disagreement is when he now tries to go to, like he talked about jets and slay queens. That was off. But if he will continue remaining on issues, then I think he's just good to go. That's number one. Number two, I'm also convinced that in ODM party, there are factions. There's a faction in ODM party, which is anti-Junet Mohamed and Hassan Joho. This faction in ODM believes that Junet Mohamed and Hassan Joho should not be the people who are advising Raila Odinga. And they believe that if Raila Odinga were to be advised, or anybody were to be close to Raila Odinga, then that person ought to be a Luo. That war is within ODM party. So I'm trying to convince myself that probably that tweet by Junior was informed by that kind of politics. So probably someone within the party, he fell for those factional fights. That's why he brought the name Joho and the Jet and the Slay Queens. Otherwise, how do you explain Junior dragging the name of Joho, who just used his money, if he used his money indeed, to go to Dubai, again spared his own time, then in Dubai, then came back with the father? How would you justify that? Hassan Joho has done everything possible, including Junet Mohamed. They've done everything possible just to make sure one thing, that Raila Odinga becomes the president of the Republic of Kenya. That did not happen. So they're still doing it. But why would Junior then talk of private jet and slay queens, if not because of the factional politics within the ODM party? And lastly, and this someone was telling me that unknown to many people, Oscar Sudi was a very good friend to the late Fidel Odinga, who is Junior's late elder brother. Fidel Odinga and Oscar Sudi were very close friends. And that's why when Oscar Sudi was under attack and was now under arrest, Junior did not find it okay. And that's why when people were actually celebrating, he challenged Junet why he was not siding with the right side of history. So I'm convinced that because of that friendship between Oscar Sudi and the late Fidel Odinga, probably that's why Junior intervened. And I want to read for you his statement, the statement which he just released. Junior is saying, clarifications. Number one, as an ordinary ODM member, my views are my own and not that of the party. Which is true. Junior is just an ordinary member of ODM party. He's not an official anywhere. So his views should actually be considered as personal views. Then he's saying, I am grateful to ODM for allowing me democratic space in which different views and opinions are expressed. Of course, ODM party cannot punish him for expressing his own views. Number three, which is my point, he's saying, my views were not targeting any leader, and I apologize for any misunderstanding. So which means when Junior was posting this, either he was emotionally affected by the arrest of Oscar Sudi, or just a human being, he had feelings that whatever was happening in this country was not right. Let me take you to the post which he made. And if he didn't put the word slay queens and private jets, his statement would have served a purpose. This is what Junior is saying. We as ODM need to find our way back to basic. We are not just about private jets and slay queen whilst abusing rival politicians. He's saying we have a development agenda clearly outlined in our manifesto. Of course, people are reminding him that the father did not become the president to implement those agenda. But he's right. He's also saying, let's focus on service delivery. Probably we should push for governors. That's what he meant. ODM governors, members of parliament, to push for pro-people legislative agendas. And he's saying, let's focus on service delivery, democratic space, where people are allowed to speak their mind, what he's talking about, and protecting private citizens' rights. Where private citizens' rights mean the rights of Oscar Sudi. And the mere fact that Oscar Sudi and the rest never supported Raila Odinga, and the mere fact that these guys were supporting impunity, ODM supporters have actually been celebrating the arrest of some of these people. And this is what Junior is telling us that we should avoid. Because we should stand on high moral grounds. I don't know what you think, but for me, if Junior had not used private jets and Slay Queen, his statements, in my view, were just okay. Let Junior create his own space. He needs to create his own space away from Raila Amolo Odinga. And if he can even change his name, but he can't change his name because that's the official name he has. But he must be allowed to create space for himself. I don't know what you think. Let me read the comments below.